What's up, everybody? Welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. I'm Jamin Hatfield, and I'll be your guide today on, what is this day? March 24th, 2020. I am joined by Janet Garcia.
Hey.
Max Scoville.
Howdy.
And Zach Ryan.
Greetings. How's everybody doing?
Yes, how is everybody doing? Everybody hanging in there?
Oh, boy. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but these days just keep getting longer. Seems to be a real vibe going around.
But the Animal Crossing days stay the same.
That's true.
Yeah, baby.
Animal Crossing has been a very special thing for this whole time. This is how long is a day anymore anyway?
Well, good news. We get to come together for the next hour or so and talk about fun stuff. We do this every day around the same time, actually exactly the same time, and on the same channel. Zach, what's our kickoff story today?
Well, can you believe it? We're going to talk about next-gen virtual reality headsets.
Wow.
Coming at you from Valve and Microsoft. So this is kind of in light of Half-Life Alyx. I feel like we gave that game a 10 out of 10 review score, meaning that it is a masterpiece according to our guidelines. Mm-hmm. So maybe we're ready for the next generation of VR now that we've perfected this generation, right? Oh God, Dan would be so mad if I said perfected. It's not a perfect score. It doesn't mean the game is perfect. Let's talk about some of the pertinence. HP VR headset and the Reverb G2 is described as the new standard in VR by HP in that it offers a more immersive, comfortable, and compatible experience than the previous generation, as listed on the Steam store page. It's a successor to the Reverb, HP's expensive VR headset. The Pro Edition is currently listed at $650, and has a 2160 by 2160 pixel per eye display. Pretty sharp virtual reality display there, if I do say so myself.
Pretty sharp.
Pretty sharp.
Yeah, actually, I'd never heard of this Reverb headset, but I looked up some reviews. PC Mag gave it 3.5 stars out of 5, and that's its rating on Amazon too. So there's definitely room for improvement.
Okay, so the new one's supposed to be spicier, huh?
Well, what's your read on this? More immersive, comfortable, and compatible than previous generations.
Maybe that just means that it scales a little bit better, right? I think the big conversation around Half-Life right now is that people are interested, like myself, in playing Half-Life Alyx, but don't necessarily have the means to do it because I don't have a PC, and I know a lot of people that want to play it and are afraid that they're up to snuff. And obviously, you can play Alyx on a Quest if you're linked to your PC, but I think that I don't know, maybe this is wishful thinking on my part to say that hopefully compatibility means that it scales a little bit better to different devices, different PC specs, maybe your Xbox Series X, if you will.
Well, yeah. I don't know if you mentioned this, but they're collaborating with Microsoft on this new VR headset. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what Microsoft would be contributing to the project.
I mean, compatibility with the Series X would be cool as hell.
Yeah, right?
I think Microsoft has said that they're not really focusing on VR, but I mean, maybe if they're kind of kicking it off to someone else to iron out the kinks and be like, this is compatible, that would be a, user-friendly approach to things.
Yeah, I was just about to mention what you mentioned, Max, where it's already been voiced that it's not something that they're really pursuing, but it could be another addition to their ecosystem. We know that Microsoft is big on not necessarily getting you to play on Xbox, but just getting you into Microsoft for your gaming experiences. So this could just very well be an extension of that.
What's your guys' just overall feeling or enthusiasm level for VR these days?
I don't know.
I'm definitely interested in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine has kind of waned and waxed over the course of the last couple of years. When the Rift first came out, there was the Portal demos and a couple of other things that I thought like really sold me on the idea. But the fact that I'm not a PC gamer kind of leaves me, kind of out in the cold in terms of like high end VR. PSVR is not super appealing to me. I played through a couple of games on the Quest that I really dug just to kind of check it out. But ultimately, like I have a hard time getting over the idea of being so far removed from everything else. Like I'm already I'm playing a game on my couch, so it's hard for me to picture something blocking out all sensory, and I just like kind of get for a while. Plus, I get crazy motion sick, so there's a couple of factors there that I'm taking into. Max, you're a big VR guy.
I kind of was a big VR guy. I have a PlayStation VR, the sort of the first iteration, which has its own kind of sets of problems to go with it. Like the placement of the headphone jack isn't ideal, and it's, if you have a 4K TV, which I just got, it doesn't play well with the pass through. And I love the idea of it when it's all set up and when it's calibrated perfectly and when it works. Like when it works. But like I had to stop using it for ages because it kept drifting a lot, and then I figured out it was because the camera was picking a tiny light on my refrigerator. It says like the temperature of the freezer, and it was like, like way in the background, basically through a doorway, but it was like, that's one of the Move controllers. You're going to die now. So, I mean, I've played around with the Oculus Quest here and there, and I really like it. And I love the idea of these sort of self-contained VR options. So if this was a step in that direction, I'd be excited more, but hearing it's another, another peripheral for a high-end PC that I don't have is sort of,
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by the Quest. The little bit of time that I've spent with it, I played Vader Immortal and I played Moss, and I think both of those games are really impressive VR experiences. But like, you guys can see my entire room here. I don't have a ton of space for VR, and when I tried to play it in the living room, my roommates thought it was really funny to take a lot of videos and put it on Instagram of me like fumbling around with my eyes closed. So
that'll happen.
Not a VR friendly household over here. But I am really interested in Alex, because having played through Half-Life 1 and 2, like I love that story. I love that world. I'm kind of disappointed that it's locked away on a VR system.
Yeah, you aren't the only one. I've actually noticed on our review that we put up yesterday, there's a lot of resentment in the audience for people that don't have VR equipment yet. They're they're a little bit upset that they aren't able to play the next Half-Life game.
Yeah, well, we ran a story on social today. A bunch of people, I think it was a Valve statement. Let me find this. I want to make sure that I get this correct before I
this
talk
is about them.
it.
They fully expect it to be modded to play without VR.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, that's if you build it, they will mod it, I guess.
Yeah.
Claudel K over here on YouTube says, Alex on Quest is a masterpiece. You should try it out. I really want to. Like, I everything I see of it is super intriguing, and I like the idea that, I think Dan Stapleton, our editor of reviews, said it best when he was talking about Valve making shooters only in times when they know that they can do something that's really revolutionary. Each time that they've done like a big shooter game, it's been something that has kind of redefined what that genre is. And so for them to take on VR like that, I think it's a really interesting time because, they're essentially saying like, okay, now we're ready to kind of take this to the next level. And from all the reviews and stuff that I've seen, it seems like it's mission accomplished in that regard.
Yeah, this is definitely the first VR game that I've been really been like interested in playing. And I've also used the Quest some. And I think the Quest is really impressive, and it's cool that Half-Life Alyx will run on the Quest, but you can't use it in like standalone mode. You have to
You have to have it tethered.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a downside to me.
I mean, just looking at some of the screen grabs and stuff coming out of Alyx, like some of that stuff is amazingly almost photorealistic. Like it looks incredible. And I can't even really imagine what that experience must be like to be, amongst those ramshackle buildings and stuff. I think it looks really.
We don't know a whole lot about PlayStation 5 on its own, but presumably there will be a follow-up to PlayStation VR. It'd be kind of if Half-Life Alyx was a PSVR 2 launch title.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Microsoft, this might be, kind of digging into it too much, but the fact that Microsoft's the Xbox Series X's proprietary drives are Seagate branded almost strikes me that they're not opposed to sort of teaming up with other hardware manufacturers for official Xbox branded stuff. Like, what if they were like, hey, here's the officially sanctioned Xbox Series X VR headset brought to you by HP? Would that be? Is that crazy? Like to see something like that?
No, I think it's totally in the realm of possibility. I'm kind of with what a lot of you guys said as far as VR. I'm probably maybe the most optimistic about VR, I think, in this group. I really enjoyed my time with VR. I had a PSVR for some time. I've used Oculus. I think it's the Quest, the one without the wires.
Right.
Yeah, to me, the wireless one is definitely like that's the next move, and also the fact that it's just standalone. Like you said, Zach, the problem with something like this is you have to be already so invested in PC gaming, and not just invested in that, but also interested in VR. So it's this other really big additional step that I think is, one, financially a lot for a lot of people, and two, technologically a lot to kind of comprehend and parse through. So I'm really looking forward to when VR can finally be a lot more, not just financially within reach, like PSVR I think sort of achieved that, but also, feel a little bit more user friendly, because with PSVR, like I've enjoyed my playtime with it, but the wires and the setup is so cumbersome, and each time it just requires so much setup and so much space and so much planning. And that's what was cool about Oculus Quest. You could just throw it on, and yeah, sure, maybe people would record you or be goofy. There's always that risk, but it just felt so easy to use and so user friendly that's really what I'm looking forward to. I saw in chat that someone, I think it was Punisher 19 or Punishment 90 or something on YouTube, said that VR is a gimmick. I sort of disagree. I do get that it's not for everyone and that it is kind of a niche market, but I think what's exciting about VR games is when they're games that are tailor-made for VR. So Half-Life Alyx, sure, people are, upset that they can't play it. And, the devs say that it'll probably be modded so more people can play it. But the reality is they knew what they were doing when they made that, and they made the active choice to make it in VR. And they felt that platform lends itself to the game in a way that another platform can't. And I think that's really exciting, just kind of opening up different gaming experiences that aren't possible without VR.
Yeah, to echo Janet here, I think to say VR is a gimmick, no, by that logic, video games are a gimmick. Like 3D graphics are a gimmick. Like voice acting is a gimmick. It's another step, and obviously some people will use it in gimmicky fashions. I've played a wide enough range of VR games where some of them you're like, this is a Wii game that I'm playing with a headset on, and there's other ones where you're like, this was incredibly well thought out and made from the ground up to be something special.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say Punishment 90 did say that VR is gimmick anyway, but then a counterpoint, right after he said that in chat, Kevin H. Moore chimes in and says VR is. So there's a lot of opinions flying around today, a lot of differing opinions.
That's really true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I should point out that the Virtual Boy was probably a gimmick.
No, I disagree. I think that was the pinnacle of VR in the 90s. Yeah, as far as...
that Wario game was good.
Yeah, let's talk about Wario.
It still hurt your eyes, but
Wario Clash.
My favorite thing about the Virtual Boy is my buddy had one that he got on discount at KB Toys for $17 or something, and then proceeded to break the legs off of it by accident. So the only way you could play it was lying face down on the bed with your face jammed in.
That's one of the first things I tested with Labo. I'm like, can I lay down and can you just put it onto your face and will you be able to see out of it? Yeah. It's funny how that's actually super similar to the Virtual Boy, why it had so many comparison points.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that we miss the Virtual Boy and wish that it would make a comeback. Shall we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, let's move on. What's next, Zach?
So speaking of things that might make you nauseous, Final Fantasy VII Remake's Cloud will have more cringe-worthy reactions. So this is a particularly interesting story. Did you guys like that transition? I feel like you really liked that transition.
No, I'm excited about more cringe.
Talking in the new Remake documentary video, the story from the scenario writer Nojima-san, who's one of the returning developers of the original game. In the original, I depicted Cloud as a cool and stylish character. However, this time he can miss the mark and be a little cringeworthy at times. His cool facade can often slip. Because he wants people to accept him and respect him, he puts on a front. So when he doesn't know something, he just goes, not interested. I have written him in a way that makes you think not interested might be a cool thing to say, but can sometimes be a bit... That's a lot to unpack there about Cloud.
Does he establish how Cloud is going to say not interested? Does he say it in a catchphrasey way?
Yeah, he goes not interested and then does double snap. Yeah.
Is this going to be an excuse me princess where he's not interested?
I'm signing up for that.
So.
I want to see that. I want to see this this gritty reboot of Final Fantasy VII, where eco-terrorism is at the front and center, and people are very emotional about it. But then, just in the background, Cloud goes, "Not interested." That sounds really good.
Oh man, I hate that so much.
So to me, this reads as like maybe not cringy as much as it is like he's obviously putting on a front, right? Like he wants people to think that he's like cool and collected, but in actuality, those of us that have played Final Fantasy VII and know the whole deal with Cloud is like his whole character is that he's kind of putting on a front. So the idea that this is cringeworthy, I think, not maybe a mistranslation, but I think it just in terms of colloquialisms, I feel like it was maybe a little bit off the mark.
Yeah, it is important to remember this is being translated from Japanese.
Yeah.
So one thing I do love about a lot of Japanese games is that they're not afraid to have incredibly like super badass characters who also have like goofy sides to them. And I mean, we've seen this in the original Final Fantasy VII, where it's like you get Cloud who's jumping around with a buster, but then he also enters a drag show, and it's like kind of slapstick at moments. But like looking at, like I play a lot of the Yakuza games, as I'm sure you've heard a lot, or like Metal Gear, for instance, where if you're too bad at the game, you wind up wearing a chicken hat if you suck. Like, and it's I think a lot of Japanese devs aren't afraid to take these like really badass, tough characters and kind of like take them down a few notches here and there. So
here's a great comment that speaks to exactly what you're saying, Max. Law 34. His need for acceptance is hot. I want to marry him. You would know how he says it if you play the demo. I don't remember him saying not interested in the demo, but he probably did. It just leads me to believe that he didn't not interested in the way that we had just maybe.
I thought he came off pretty cool in the demo. Like he did, like none of his specific lines. I mean, he had so few came off cheesy. But to kind of echo Max's point, I feel like this, I wouldn't say it can be good, but the reality is there were parts of that demo that were already pretty cheesy and like debatably cringy already. Like the, the fanfare nod with like the humming of like the tune and things like that. Like it is telling like a story that has plenty of weight to it in terms of its messaging, but it's also clearly not taking itself too seriously. And I think that can be a benefit to the storytelling just because there are already these like kind of cheesy moments built into the story already. So if you kind of lean into it, it seems more like, oh, you're doing this to the amusement of the player rather than this is trying to be serious and failing. So it kind of gives it more dimension in that way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But of course,
I think.
No, what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I feel like there's a lot of cringeworthy moments in the original, even though have kind of forgotten about or see through rose tinted glasses. So like the idea that there would be cringeworthy stuff in this remake is not only expected, but also like pretty on brand for this particular game.
Well, these weren't the only changes that Nojima-san hinted at in this interview or in this documentary. They also said the remake will reveal a major untold part of Aerith's past. You might not even catch it at all.
Oh,
so
wow.
To me, those are like, what? It's a major reveal, but we might not catch it.
All right, let's go round robin. Who here has played the original Final Fantasy VII?
I have, but it's probably been 20 years.
Yeah. Janet, Max, you guys Final Fantasy VII fans?
I've played the first maybe dozen hours of it a bunch of times, or first few hours, and it's like I remember bits of it, and I know things that happened. As far as beat by beat, it's definitely kind of foggy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm not familiar. Though even if I was, I don't think you can really make too many guesses on what it could be, since it's just kind of like this random but very specific and informative detail. Like I think it'd be kind of hard to predict what that could possibly be. But yeah, I find it interesting that it's like supposed to be a big deal, but also isn't that noticeable. So I wonder if it's going to be something like a small Easter egg that like it's the community talking, that maybe like has some speculation around it rather than it being overtly told to the player. That's kind of my assumption. But it's interesting to kind of tease that as well. I feel like it's kind of like we saw a lot of people just scraping over the Final Fantasy VII demo remake, like our remake demo. Like people were playing it multiple times and like looking at the subway and like checking under this box and being like, hey, did you notice this symbol in the background? And I think the community carries that energy into the full release of the game. We'll probably find out just from like by way of the internet, but it's interesting to kind of plant that seed in the community already to kind of like say, hey, like see if you can figure out what this is.
Yeah, I like that they're kind of teasing eagle-eyed fans of like, hey, even those of you out there that are looking for it, that's pretty interesting.
So I have a question for Janet and Max. Final Fantasy VII for years and years has had one of the events in the story is like one of the most emotional things that gamers have ever experienced, and like one of a very like protected spoiler. So like, has this game been spoiled for you?
Oh yeah.
Has this moment been spoiled for you?
Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
Not yet. I totally expect people to tweet the end or something now, but like, no, I don't. But I'm not too
Janet,
averse. Yes.
Out of just professional courtesy to you, I'm going to spoil it for you right now. There's a snowboarding mini game.
That's right. Yeah. That's the thing that nobody talks about is that you spend a not insignificant portion of time snowboarding in that game.
So much of the beginning of when I started at IGN was people just like very like deadpan providing information about various things that I'm just like constantly skeptical of everything. But the funny thing is, obviously I know that's not going to be a thing, but since I'm on the guides team, I'm not really as averse to spoilers because I kind of have to like consume all the information and like look up all this stuff. So I avoid them when I can, but with the nature of my job, like I see the endings of things all the time or like have to study stuff ahead of time. So, but no, I don't know the ending actually. I also didn't have the ending for The Last of Us spoiled for me either. So that was, well, I had the ending plot point spoiled, but not the ending, which was way more important to me than the plot point.
Right.
So I've been lucky.
So I wanted to ask, there's one thing that has been kind of baffling to me. Well, not baffling, but just seems odd. I see a ton of people going back to play the original Final Fantasy VII right now. And I'm curious, like when a game is being remade like this and it's so close to being released, what's the incentive for going back and are going to play through an arguably plussed up better version of it in a few weeks? Does that appeal to you at all? Are you guys interested in going back and playing the original?
Well, I haven't gone back to play the original, but I think I understand why people will do it. It gives you context, for what they did with the remake, right? It might make you appreciate it even more, as opposed to just playing it as if it were a new release,
Yeah, I think too, like one of the most fascinating parts of a remake, like it's interesting either way you go in, fun to go into it without having played it because you can have a kind of clean perspective on it, but it's also fun to say, hey, I played this in the modern era to test it out and I kind of see why they made those changes. You don't have the rose tinted glasses that like fans of the old game would play. So if I, play Final Fantasy VII, the original for the first time versus like, Damon, maybe you replaying it, we might have different interpretations or gripes or issues or things we like or things we don't like. And I'm always really fascinated by, what the changes are, where in, especially this game, since it's episodic, it's not actually going to be the full of the original game anyway. So one kind of convenient thing is you could just play up until that one point, stop, play the first episode of who knows how many episodes, and then go back and finish the original at your own leisure if you feel like it. One of the first things I did after playing the demo was look up on YouTube the opening gameplay for the original to kind of, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this is exactly that same alley. This is the same and I was really fascinated by how it was so much a one-to-one, but so visually different. And that was really cool to me. So I can definitely see the appeal of doing it. It's a big time sink, so sometimes I don't always get the time to do that. But yeah, I think there's definitely a reason to check it out. And it's available on so many platforms for like a fairly reasonable price point that it's not that difficult to just dip in and get a feel for what that game was at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if we're going to see people kind of in the same way that people would watch a season of Game of Thrones and then burn through all the books because they didn't want to have later stuff spoiled. Because this is episodic, I wonder if people are going to play the remake and, oh crap, I got to play that original so I know what happens without it being spoiled. Like, I think a lot of people are probably going to jump into the original to kill time between the remake and what second part of it comes out, the follow-ups that they hopefully have better naming conventions for.
Several people are upset with us for using the term episodic in conjunction with the Final Fantasy VII remake. I feel like Square themselves has more than once called it episodic, and
I was just
like I get what you guys are saying in chat. Like I understand that you're saying like, oh, this could be part 1, 2, 3. But episodic here is a blanket term that just describes games being released piecemeal. It's not to say that like the traditional definition of episodic in this.
Yeah, I think also just to kind of address that as well, the reason that we're not using maybe a term that would be quote unquote more correct is that there isn't. Like we haven't really had an old game get remade but broken into multiple parts while being remade. Like that's kind of, and for that reason, like we're sort of forced to use old language and contextualize it to have it make sense with what's going on. Maybe in the future we'll have a term that's more applicable. It reminds me of like there was remakes and remasters, but now we also kind of wandered into the term reimagining, right? What happens when it's so much of a remake, but it's so different that it is a remake, but you feel like you didn't just remake the game because you changed it. So that language is always adapting. So sure, it's not necessarily an episodic game the way Life is Strange was an episodic game, but it has multiple parts. It's coming in pieces. That's kind of just an easy shorthand for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I would say if Square Enix wants to let us know what these parts should be called and how many there are going to be and when they're all going to be released, I would love to have that information.
Yeah, seriously. I think that this whole thing is like, obviously we work in an industry where people are plugged in and in the know and understand how this game is being released. For your average person out there that might happen across Final Fantasy VII Remake with no indication that this is only the first part or whatever, I think it's unfair for them to pick that game up at a full price and then find out that it spans the first, however many hours of the original.
Now, I think we can move on to a tangentially related topic. Speaking of Final Fantasy VII, PlayStation Network is going to be slowing down game downloads in Europe. And this is happening just as we're about to get the 100 gig size download for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's worse problems on the planet Earth right now.
That's true.
But that's still kind of a bummer.
Yeah, to clarify, they're not throttling your gameplay and like your multiplayer sessions. That shouldn't be affected.
Yeah.
Your downloads are going to take a little bit longer.
You can preload stuff on there anyway. Like if you're I don't know who's on the fence about Final Fantasy VII right now. Like I feel like there was a demo. If you were curious, you probably checked it out. It's kind of not a known quantity, but it seems like a pretty safe bet that you can escape for a few dozen hours into that.
Yeah.
And I mean, just leave your PlayStation on overnight. It can download slowly, and hopefully your game is ready by morning.
But
that sounded so sad the way you described it. Like,
but it won't be ready to play right, when the game launches.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this a lot, like just everyone having to work from home and do stuff remotely. And I think I saw today YouTube is making it so videos autoplay in 720p as opposed to HD. Which is, it's just little things. It's basically the internet bandwidth version of turning out the lights when you leave the room to save electricity. It's they're not stopping you from watching HD videos. It just means that you have to manually go and kick it up a notch.
It's just interesting seeing how current events are starting to affect gaming. We also know that Final Fantasy VII Remake's not going to be delayed. It's coming out April 10th, but physical copies may be delayed getting into gamers' hands.
Yeah, I don't imagine that this is the last time we're going to see this story. Like, I think that developers and publishers are definitely looking at a world right now where digital copies are much more in the realm of possibility and easier to ship and sell, as opposed to physical copies, because like a lot of these companies, a lot of these manufacturers are on lockdown, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is sort of the beginning of a lot of this kind of news about physical copies being kind of missing in action as we approach game release dates, which will bum a lot of people out. Like, I mean, I've done digital only this whole generation, PS4, Switch specifically. Like, I don't buy hard copies of hardly anything, so it's not a big deal to me. But there are people in the office that like only will buy physical copies, and there are a lot of people that I interact with on social that only buy physical copies.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I only buy physical. I mean, only buy digital. Or sorry, I would not say I only buy physical. Like I buy digital games, but I prefer physical. And this is definitely deterred. Like everything going on with the world right now, and like delays or having hard time getting access to games, whether it's the store that you get them from isn't open, or if you order it, you don't know if it'll actually arrive on time. So I've seen a lot of people who were like, I saw this a lot with Animal Crossing. Like a lot of people on Twitter, like on my feed, were like, I was planning on getting the physical version, but it's delayed, so I can just get the digital now and start playing already, or I can just wait for this kind of thing. As much as I love physical, pretty arbitrary in the grand scheme of things. So it's really unfortunate that these circumstances are pushing physical media even more into the background, because it already isn't that popular of a thing. A lot of players have transitioned to digital, and this is kind of just expediting it, which is it's really unfortunate to see. And even myself, like I'm not going to go to the store and buy a physical copy of a game right now. I'll just download it. Convenience of my home, and I don't like ordering it from Amazon either, because to me the fun is like also going and getting it. If I'm going to wait for it to be delivered, why don't I just download it?
I wanted to ask chat what their thoughts are. Excuse me. You guys go digital or buying game? Let us know.
While they form their thoughts, we can talk about the leaked April PlayStation Plus game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we're all very excited to get out there and play Dirt Rally on the PlayStation Plus.
Dirt Rally 2.0.
Oh, okay, even better. That's twice as much dirt.
The other game coming is Uncharted 4.
That
also has dirt in it. There's a lot of dirt in that game too.
You slide all over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been meaning to jump back into Uncharted 4 because I just talked about this on Beyond, but there was that Kotaku article about how like The Last of Us 2 had incredible crunch, and they're talking about all the detail that went into Uncharted. And my takeaway from that was I should go back to Uncharted 4 and look at all the little details they worked so hard on. But I really should probably be like, man, crunch is bad, and we should not have that happen. Uncharted 4 it's good. It's a good game.
I think it's really good.
It's a little long for my taste. I found it a little long in the tooth by the time I got to the end. I figured that they could have shaved it off a few hours, but I like all the Uncharted games. I think that they're all good.
I think go ahead, Max.
I like the truck. You really didn't need to let me go for that. I was just going to say, like, a lot of people complained about all the parts where you tie the winch to the trees and pull the truck up. And I was like, nah, I like truck stuff. This is good. It's a good time.
If you like the truck stuff, did you play Lost Legacy? Because that's like a whole bunch of truck stuff in that.
I really like Lost Legacy, but I don't remember the truck stuff.
If you love truck stuff, you'll love Dirt Rally 2.0.
I was just going to say,
trucks.
I bet there's some truck stuff going on in that game.
There might be truck stuff in that game.
Maybe.
Uncharted 4. Well, I was just going to say, it's a pretty good pick for PlayStation Plus. They also recently put out the Nathan Drake collection in like December or January. So it's a whole lot of Uncharted for free on PlayStation 4 recently.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You can get back in there and play Uncharted 2, which is the best Uncharted.
All I was going to say with Uncharted was, because Zach, you mentioned Uncharted a little too long. I would say all of them were too long, pretty much. Yeah. I played only 1 through 3. I had the Uncharted collection on, I think I had it for PS4. I think I played it on PS4, I played through all 3 of them because they all came on in one collection. And then I was like, I'm never going to play any more of this again. So everyone says Uncharted 4 is the best one. But I'm like, my issue was I played Uncharted 1 and I had some issues with it. Like it had some good parts, but I was like, I don't know if it was that great. And everyone's like, oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Uncharted 2, though. Uncharted 2. Then I played Uncharted 2 and I was like, I still have kind of some of the same issues. And they're like, whoa, no. But Uncharted 3, though. So I've fallen for this too many times that Uncharted 4 could be the greatest game ever, and I will never, because I got burned like 3 times on.
But it's free.
How about this though? How about
and that's why I played the other one, because I'm like, it's all on one disc. It's like the game is already installed. Sure.
What about this though, Janet? In Uncharted 4, Nathan Drake has a brother, and you also have a brother. Sounds like a pretty good game to me. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, hey, so I don't think this will be the time that I'll jump in, but it is free.
Do you like Crash Bandicoot?
I thought I did, and then I played the remake, and I realized
Have you tried playing Crash Bandicoot as Nathan Drake playing Crash Bandicoot? Because that's a thing you can do.
Oh yeah, that is a thing. That is cool. I always appreciate when you play a game within a game. Like that's one of my favorite things about. What was that? Way Out, where you did all those mini games and you could play you could play Connect Four together, stuff like that. I live for that. So
I think
that's
I totally see what you're saying about playing Uncharted games because they are extremely iterative, and I think they're always trying to do something new, but also keep that formula of what worked the first time. And if I hadn't played the other Uncharted games, I probably would have loved Uncharted 4 a whole lot more. But if I hadn't played the Uncharted games, I also wouldn't have had any emotional investment in the characters, which is a weird quandary there.
Yeah, I will say. Oh, go ahead.
It hit a lot of similar beats. Like I feel like there's scenes in that game where it was almost like they looked at stuff that worked really well in previous games. Let's do that again, but like the whole the marketplace chase scene is like just technically amazing, but it feels like they're trying to one up what they did with the train sequence in Uncharted 2.
Yeah, that train was really good. Like there were a lot of, when I say I don't really like Uncharted.
Oh.
I think the storytelling is really good too. Like I loved Sully and I got really into the characters, even though the story is the same story every time. And it's like there's some curse or some whatever. And then people were like, it's because it's like Indiana Jones. And I'm like, well, the story wasn't great either. But anyway, there are some redeeming qualities for sure.
I will not hear a disparaging word against Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I'm just so over
on this show.
At the end, there's like a curse or it's just it just really takes you out of everything else you experience because you had so much realism prior. I mean, within obviously the confines of Nathan Drake being
oh my God,
Superman,
you might actually
shot 80 times. But
I'm going to do it. You might actually like Uncharted 4.
No,
it doesn't have Yetis or scarabs.
Yeah, it's true. There's no curse.
Wait, so Janet, do you like the modern Tomb Raider games?
I actually haven't played any of them in their entirety. I really enjoyed. I keep starting. I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
That's the
Is that the one where you're in the winter and they're have to crack?
That's Rise.
Rise of the Tomb Raider is the one. I've started that game like 3 times and I just haven't kept playing it. I liked what I played so far of it, so I haven't played it all in its entirety though. I only played the first hour or 2.
I've been thinking about going because I've played the first reboot and Rise, and I love both of those games. And I have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I just never played it. But now, as you can see, I can't tear myself away from Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is love. Animal Crossing is so I was just going to play this forever.
You like Animal Crossing, but check it out. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you can make friends with llama.
You collect? How many bugs do you collect in Shadow of the Tomb?
There are actually some bugs in that game, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I see what you did there.
No, I meant you're in the Amazon rainforest. Yeah. That's a hellhole full of insects.
Well, okay.
Oh, no.
Shall we move on to the next topic of the day?
I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Zach, what is it?
Zach frozen? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, he's gone.
Well, Zach was so upset that you will not play Uncharted 4, Janet.
He just left the whole conversation.
Yeah. You really hated my bugs joke.
I thought it was pretty good. And we're back. Hope everybody got a nice little break to go get some popcorn. Because we still got more news to talk about. I actually already had popcorn today.
That's
It's kind of early for popcorn.
I was gonna say it's Tuesday. Usually we save popcorn for Thursdays, but
just like a at-home pop. What time of day did you have the popcorn?
I want to say it was about 2:00.
Okay.
that's
like
after lunch. It was after lunch.
8:30 in the morning. Just got a nice breakfast corn.
Did you watch anything while you had the popcorn?
No, I stood over the kitchen counter and ate it, standing up.
Ate it like a monster, just shoveling popcorn.
I love that whole like popcorn eating meme has completely like made it so that if you're looking at anything while you're eating popcorn, it makes it seem like you're intensely invested in what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, where did we leave off? We were moving on to the Olympics postponement story, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so the Olympics, as we know, have been postponed.
Mm-hmm.
But great news for all you Peacock fans out there. This announcement doesn't mean that Peacock will be delayed. And what is Peacock, you might ask? Well, that's NBC's new streaming service. I know we all believe
NBC's streaming service?
Cool. Yeah, that's all right. All Nintendo voice chat all the time. Network television. Me and Pear and Casey and Brian going ham on Animal Crossing constantly.
Cool.
Now, be honest, guys. How many of you have Peacock pre-purchased?
Not me.
No,
really?
But those shows honestly look really, to be honest, they got some good things.
Like what? Like what?
Like Cheers.
What?
I love Cheers. Okay, I watched all of Cheers.
Nothing against Cheers, but I guess I would have assumed it's on Netflix already.
Yeah, I was watching it on Netflix like on this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not. Go ahead.
When's the last time you watched Cheers?
I stopped when I finished it, which was maybe like a year or two.
Okay, because it's like I love that it's like totally proto Friends. Like I had never watched it. And I put on the first episode, and I was like, oh my god, it's totally like it's Ross and Rachel, but the alcohol is there.
Oh, they're all like intermixed. Yeah, it's always New York. Friends, like they're all the same show, just different times.
Friends takes place in a coffee shop and Cheers takes place at a bar. They're completely different shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and How I Met Your Mother was a different bar, so it's
a whole different thing. Yeah.
I do believe they signed a few exclusives. Like I was looking at, we have like slideshow embeds on a lot of our articles, and it showed like things coming to Peacock, and one of them was SVU, and I think they have an exclusive deal for that potentially. So I think if they have like a couple exclusives of things that you really want to watch, it could draw you in. Like personally, that's a little bit how I pick streaming services sometimes. Like if it is something that's appealing enough and it's affordable enough and I can get other people to go in with it, like on a kind of weird Ponzi scheme where I'm like, okay, we're all only $1.17, but you have to pay it every month, just kind of finesse it that way. Then sometimes I'll dip into something, even if it's not like an appealing platform holistically.
But what about the Punky Brewster reboot? I mean,
wow.
Keep that in mind.
It's going to be dark and gritty, isn't it?
Janet's got a great point that, they got a lot of great exclusives, including our friend Punky. She's back doing all the Brewster stuff.
Oh, man.
Now, do we know anything about the Punky Brewster reboot?
Yeah, this time around, she'll have 3 pigtails to show that time has passed.
I want to point out that the headline for our topic here is Olympics postponement won't delay NBC's Peacock launch. And Peacock launch sounds like a great free-to-play mobile game.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Launch them.
I'll play the hell out of Peacock launch.
Coming now on Apple Arcade, 100%.
Yeah.
They had a show on Peacock even where they launched peacocks at things. I would probably be more interested in that shows I've already seen. That's
probably true.
Peacock launching should be an Olympic sport.
Well, not this year, buddy. You got bad news.
But the Olympic delay should not prevent the peacocks from being launched because they're all very hungry and they want to get out there and peck around for some.
Damon has set up a nice volley of questions here to ask about our favorite streaming services. Which streaming services are you spending the most time with these days? I'll go first. I'm watching a lot on Disney Plus. I'm watching the Clone Wars, which is A+ Star Wars. I didn't know until recently, but I love Clone Wars.
I hear such good things. I've never watched it. The art style is a bit of a turnoff for me, but I do hear a lot of great things.
It looks but is actually great.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What else? Who else is streaming?
I put on Rebels. I'm the same way as Damon. I couldn't get into the aesthetic.
It took me like 3 or 4 tries before I could make it past the first few episodes.
I watched Rebels on my phone on a plane, and it looked like, I think just the small scale flattened it out, and it looked like Ralph McQuarrie concept art. And I'm
all right.
But looking at it on like a huge TV, I'm just looking at all the little, like, I'm like, I can see the shapes. They did polygons. Yeah.
Yeah, I've mostly been watching like a lot of Hulu, which is weird because for a long time I just didn't watch Hulu because it's Hulu. I just only watch Netflix pretty much. But I got Hulu recently. Yeah, all that Cheers. I did watch all of Cheers, and I won't apologize.
No,
but I ended up watching a lot of Hulu because I went in with my family on like the Disney Plus Hulu bundle. So now I'm like, okay, we have Hulu now. So I've just been checking out like what's on there. It's a weird place. I've mainly just been rewatching Law and Order SVU, Shark Tank, and it's like my place for basic shows, like super. It's like, are you like either basic in the modern era or 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon back in like 2007 or 10, that's kind of the genre of TV I'm watching on Hulu. So that's been my main thing. I'm also watching Attack on Titan on there. So I'm trying to finish. I'm on the last season that's currently up, I think. So those would be the ones I'm
a bunch of people in the comments are shouting out Devs on Hulu, and I have to say Devs is A+. That show is
really
great. Yeah, that show is awesome. If you're not watching, that's Alex Garland, the director of Annihilation and Ex Machina.
Oh, wow.
Doing a series for Hulu that is killer.
Isn't it kind of like Silicon Valley, but dark and scary?
That's exactly what it is.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
It's really good.
You know what else is on Hulu? Is Letterkenny.
Oh, I've heard that's very good.
Letterkenny is so good.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe I cannot describe it. It's about a Canadian small town with like farmers who fight each other a lot, and then there's goth kids who do a lot of meth, but somehow it's heartwarming, and it's they play hockey.
It sounds like similar vibes of like Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, but it's like a lot punchier. Like it's a lot more.
There's a lot of punching happening in Trailer Park Boys. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but those guys punch everybody.
It does have some Trailer Park Boys. I've tried to get into Trailer Park Boys a bunch of times, and Letterkenny has there's like a sweetness to it that I think Trailer Park Boys has hidden in the corners, but it's still much more like kind of crass the whole.
Yeah, one thing that helped me get into Trailer Park Boys was being shithouse drunk every time I try to watch.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Last night, my wife watched Frozen 2 on Disney Plus while I played Doom Eternal.
That seems like a winning combination.
There was a good juxtaposition happening in the Hatfield household last night.
Did you leave the music on so that you could hear the Frozen 2 soundtrack played?
I didn't, but I've already heard all those songs. I've already heard all those songs because we just tell Alexa to play children's music when my kid's awake and around. So I've already heard all the Frozen 2 songs.
I like the idea that like while you're playing Doom, you turn off the background music in Doom and just let Frozen take the wheel. Yeah. And then
is that not how everyone's playing?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I tried to watch Frozen 2 with my 6-year-old niece, who was obviously really excited to watch Frozen 2. And I was like, I haven't seen Frozen 1. Will I understand what's going on? And she's like, no, it's totally cool. I'll explain everything. And that movie did not make any sense at all to me.
Even when Olaf explained it to you?
I had more questions when that happened.
That was one of the best scenes in Frozen 2. I think Frozen 2 is better than Frozen 1, but not by enough to move the needle for me.
They made the snowman. Is that correct? Using wizardry, they brought him to life.
Yeah, you can also do that in Animal Crossing.
They asked a lot of questions about it. Who wants to build the snowman? How does he get built? Where does he go next?
So he's like a homunculus, but made of a thing that can melt in direct sunlight. It's awful.
Yeah.
I think he has more durability than what you would typically find in a snowman, but there are still limitations.
Who would have guessed that we would have ended up here today?
Well, I know you guys are all playing Animal Crossing. Are any of you playing Doom?
I played the first, I'd say probably hour and a half of Doom, and I really liked it a lot. But then every time I sit down to play a video game, I'm always like, you know what? I'm going to play about 20 minutes of Animal Crossing, just do a few things, like just a couple things that I want to do before, and then I end up playing for like 3 hours and it's like midnight and I have to go to bed. So
yeah.
I want to get back to Doom though.
I want to check Doom out. I played a different game that I cannot speak about that involved guns and wet things screaming. So,
Cool.
I don't know. Dude, I could probably use some Animal Crossing about now.
That's so confusing. I don't know what game you're talking about there, Maxwell. Okay, let's move along. Let's find a new topic. Perhaps Train to Busan 2. The director reveals the meaning behind the sequel title. Train to Busan, one of the coolest zombie films I think ever made. You guys seen that movie?
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
I've not
Max,
seen it.
I'm sure you've seen it.
Actually.
What? That's such a Max Scoville movie.
It's one of those
Right,
ones.
cut to Train to Busan. That's what the last 10 minutes of this is going to be.
That's right.
That's one of those ones that I think somebody who had recommended something I didn't like recommended it to me, and I'm like, no, you had your chance. And then other people are like, no, it's good, and I'm like, no, but that other guy said it was good, and I don't trust him.
No, it's so good.
That happened. Yeah. I'm really glad that you said that though, because that happens to me so many times. People that I'm like, I don't agree with your opinion. So if they're like, oh, I loved it, I'm like, oh, I probably won't like it then. And then it's like almost like they become the anti-recommendation person without them knowing it. I wonder if I'm that person for someone. I probably am.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. The turnoff for me is I just feel so over zombies.
Yeah, but what about zombies on a train? Not since Resident Evil 0, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've had those kind of zombies on a train.
True.
What's the deal with this sequel, Janet?
Well, it's gonna
Busan fan.
Yeah, a little bit. So I love Train to Busan. This one's actually taking place on like this peninsula afterwards. So it takes place like several years after the outbreak happened, and it's kind of the aftermath. So basically, like our article just kind of covers additional stuff on the direction of the film and why it's still a sequel, even though it's not directly going to be necessarily in line with the events that happened in Train to Busan, because that was so specific. I thought one thing that was really interesting was that now that's going to be in this wider area. Like he mentioned that it's going to be kind of more of like a big budget in terms of the look of it, which is interesting because something I actually really liked about Train to Busan was how like small and narrow the environment was. I think it led to really interesting storytelling. So while I'm curious as to what they're going to do with like a bigger environment, I'm also a little bit concerned that it won't really have the same cachet it had the first time around because it was so narrow of a.
Yeah, I get that. I love the first one. I'm really stoked for a sequel. I think that I get Damon's concerns that it's just more zombie stuff, but I thought the first one was like such an interesting spin and like some genuinely like pretty spooky stuff happened in that movie.
It was also surprisingly heartfelt. Like I was very emotional watching that movie.
And
like I wasn't expecting.
Features the dad from Parasite too.
Okay, now I'm back on. Now I'm on board.
I like him.
This train.
Yeah, he's doing great stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to like the movie necessarily. I was kind of recommended as like interesting, but it really sucked me in with both like the story it was telling, the action, and also like it had a lot of heart behind it, which I was not expecting from like a zombie outbreak film. So yeah, it definitely surprised me. Like it's not. Generally, like the pitch was not interesting to me, but when I gave it a shot, like it's one of the movies that just really stuck with me. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, I recommend checking it out.
Whoa, I just got a fun fact from chat here. Okay, Muscles Mighty Beast, which is just a freaking 10 out of 10 name. He says, Alex Garland also wrote 28 Days Later, which I didn't know. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I
didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay, well then I guess it was just me. Moving on.
Wasn't he involved with the island? Or no, the beach. The Leo DiCaprio movie. It was basically the plot of Far Cry 3. But then I think he went and did he work on Enslaved? Am I crazy? There's like this weird connection of like overlap of like Alex Garland and video game stuff.
Like the Journey to the West game?
Yeah. The Andy Serkis
with
one?
Andy Serkis? Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
I've never heard that, but that was a good game though.
That was a good game. Underrated game. One last story here, and it's nice.
Nice story.
Nice story to close out the show. Our favorite show, The Office, turns 15.
What, like today?
I would like to tell you the truth here, but I'm gonna tell you that I don't know if it's today or this week or what. Typically, these stories at the bottom are softballs, but thanks for putting me on the spot here, Damon. Sometime soon.
I think Jana added this story. Does Jana know?
Yeah, it's today. I'll double check as you're talking through it. But
great.
Yep, March 24th. Yep.
Excellent. So The Office turns 15, which makes me feel very old. Yeah. It's moving over to the Peacock network in 2021. So if you start watching The Office now, you can watch every season at least 4.5 times. What's everybody's favorite episode of The Office?
So I just want to say firsthand, I like The Office a lot. I can't name any episodes. Like,
okay.
Sorry. I still probably have to go with what most people say is the best one, which is the dinner party episode. Yeah, I think I watched it the other day because I was thinking, I'm like, unrelated to the anniversary, I was like, what's the best episode of The Office? And I'm like, is it the dinner party? And then I watched it. I'm like, it's probably the dinner party. So I'm going to go with that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Max, are you an Office guy?
I've maybe seen a couple episodes. It just kind of, it came out when I was like, I think just like not near screens. It was like before streaming stuff happened, and it wasn't the kind of thing I was going to go, pirate on like college Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. And then I just it kind of came and went, and I was like, oh, where'd it go? I don't, so, I'll probably get into it in 5 years when I finally succumb to the allure of the people.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to subscribe to Peacock if you're gonna see it in 5 years.
I mean, I just discovered Cheers literally last week. So give me like 25 years, and I'll check out The Office. And
there's a lot of Cheers talk happening on this episode. I have a lot of favorite moments. I don't know if I have one specific favorite episode, but definitely there's an episode where Dwight is talking about all the pranks that Jim pulls on him, and by far one of the hardest times I've ever laughed at anything on television ever was when Jim is putting coins into Dwight's phone receiver, and gradually over time, and then when he takes them out of the receiver, Dwight punches himself in the face. It's very good. It's very funny. Yeah.
I remember 15 years ago when that show launched, I thought it was such a terrible idea to remake the British version of The Office.
Oh, see, I was so unaware of the British version that it didn't didn't bother me.
But of course, I think it went on to eclipse the British version.
Oh yeah, and we, our counterparts in the UK, and they talk about how the American version of The Office is so much more beloved over there because there's so much more of it. I think
it went on for so much. There's only three seasons.
3 seasons of the UK version, yeah. But hey, anyway, happy birthday to The Office.
You know what else is having a birthday today? Bloodborne.
Bloodborne, baby.
Hey.
Wow. Yeah. Happy birthday, Bloodborne.
How old is Bloodborne?
5.
5 years of murder crows and wet horses and Cthulhu beasts.
Max, do you know when Beyond's Let's Play goes up of that, or is it already?
We have a teaser up, but we don't know when we can shoot more of it. So it's sort of on back burner, but I don't know. I feel like we should just put that out there and be like, we'll put it up when it's done, yeah.
Now you've successfully completed the horse game. Is that correct, Max?
No, I have the fire horse, the beach orphan, the grandpa, and the moon to fight left. Great. So that's yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I'm proud of you because as long as I've known you, you've been fighting Bloodborne and starting it over and chipping your way through it, and now you're right at the precipice of finishing the game. And good job, buddy.
Yeah, man. Well done. That was definitely one of those games where I was like, I'm never going to play this. It's too hard. And then I was like, okay, fine. And then I was like, okay, this is one of the best games ever.
Yep, I completely agree. I would put that in my top 5.
Lucy O'Brien and I got extremely drunk together in this wonderful dive bar in San Francisco called the Edinburgh Castle, which is full of it's basically Bloodborne, the bar. It smells like piss. It's got knights, suits of armor in the corner, and there's weird creaking noises. And we just were sitting there looking. Is it the best game? It is the best game.
That sounds very on brand for both of you.
Bloodborne, the bar. I would play that visual novel. That would be dope.
We joked about a Bloodborne visual novel a million years ago, and I photoshopped Vicar Amelia with kawaii eyes in a visual novel form.
That's very good.
That's really good.
Guys, there's another game that has a birthday today. It's Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
Really? Oh man, that game's so good. Except for the part where you have to balance you by moving the 3. I didn't like that.
That was a very good game too. Though.
Was that released in the year of Luigi?
2013?
Yeah, I don't remember what
I'm
the
not
year
sure.
Luigi
I think it
was.
was 2012.
You do. The forgotten year of Luigi.
It's true.
Yeah, what a great franchise.
All right, everyone. Well, we did it. We talked about news, games, and more.
Facts.
I think we should change the name of the show to News, Games, and Cheers.
Perfect.
I look forward to making my premiere on that.
I'll get our team on that right away. Everybody, thanks for joining us for this episode. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow with more news, games, and more. Everybody have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Good night, guys.
Bye, y'all.